How would I pitch Rocky Horror to somebody who's never seen it? Well, I mean, here's how I've done it. So, whenever I have somebody come to the show and I meet them in the lobby and I say, "Have you ever seen the movie before?" And they go, "No, I haven't." I go, "Okay, well, hear me out. Hear me out. It's a rock and roll musical that's really gay about transvestite aliens." And they're like, "You're fucking with me. That's not real." And I go, "End of the night, you're gonna realize I was right."
If I had to pitch Rocky Horror, I would say it is a comedy musical parody of old horror movies with a lot of self-awareness.
You'd think I would have a pitch prepared. Normally I just say you pay a couple of dollars and you get to see me in my underwear, and that usually works.
You're going to see a movie, and everyone is running around like crazy people, and everyone's screaming and yelling, and you can't really pay attention to the movie, but it's a lot of fun.
It's the best version of the worst movie you've ever seen.
I think that is an impossible question to answer because it's just it's an experience unlike any other. I would say it's like community theater on mescaline.
I mean, Rocky Horror's development into like this cult status, the way it is now, is weird. I mean, when it came out, it flopped, and for whatever reason, somebody said, "Hey, let's play it at midnight." People start to go every week. You know, you can only see a movie so long before it doesn't get interesting anymore, so you start doing things like throwing stuff and yelling things. It's called a shadow cast because you're performing the movie in front of the movie while the movie's playing. So it's, a lot of people get confused. They're like, "Oh, do you sing? Do you do the lines? Do you dance?" It's like, well, yes, but no. We don't have to. We do anyway, but it's coming out of the speakers. We're just acting out. We're essentially mimicking what's on the screen, and that's kind of what makes it unique as opposed to other types of theater. What made me want to start performing Rocky is I used to be a regular back 20 years ago. I had a friend who was on cast, and I'd go every week, and eventually they'd be like, "Why don't you just like do this? You're here all the time anyway." And I'm like, I was 16, I didn't have much else going on besides school, so I did. And yeah, 20 years later, I haven't stopped.
I grew up loving movies, and I used to always go to like Barnes & Noble and read those giant like 101 movies you must see before you die books. And Rocky was always like in the top 50 because it's just such a weird, unique experience. So when I was finally old enough, I went. Then I went again, and again, and again, until they were just like, "Dude, you gotta join." And then I did, and I've been here since, 6 years later.
My mom took me to see a live show, and I remember Dr. Frankenfurter was played by a like 6'3" beautiful tall black drag queen, and she sat on my lap, and I was like, "This is it. This is what I want to do." And how old am I? So 16 years later, here's me still doing it.
I consider myself a legacy. My mom did Rocky in the city, and then finally I went to my first show when I was like 15 or 16, and ever since then it was like, I have to do this.
My mom actually did Rocky when she was younger. She played Columbia too, which is crazy. She told me that when she started doing Rocky, she came out of her shell and she started like being an insane person too. So I've definitely started, you know, I'm a lot more outgoing. I definitely talk to people a lot more. You know, I'm just more comfortable with myself in my own skin.
What impact has Rocky Horror had on me? I mean, it's monumental. I mean, I always say without Rocky, there's no idea. I have no idea where the hell I would have ended up. You know, it's been the one constant in my life for the last 20 years. It's one of the few things where when I go to the show, I know the movie's going to turn on, and I know what happens next. And to me, that's comforting to know. I mean, that's just my personality type. I like to know what's going to happen. But it's affected my life profoundly. You know, I've made decisions. I've made career decisions based on Rocky. I've made school decisions based on that, job decisions, because I want this to be a part of my life. I mean, I won't lie and say it's impacted my own personal relationships, because it has. Because, you know, depending on what time of my life, I had to put a lot of energy into it, which might have taken away from other aspects of my life. It's done some really great things for me. It's also done some not great things for me, but that's my fault. That's not a freaking 40-year-old's movie fault. That's my fault, the way I manage myself. But yeah, it's the impact on my life is insane.
The Rocky Horror Cast, this run specifically performing, has really helped me with like my body and like noticing my body as a part of like space, because as a plus size person, I feel like there's not a lot of communities where plus size people get to be doing performance and get to be doing especially like spicy performance, like in different forms of dress and everything.
I mean, it's impacted my entire life at this point. I auditioned 3 days after turning 17, so I wasn't even an adult. So all of my life decisions that I've made since then have been centered around, will I be able to do Rocky still? Like, where I went to college, I decided because I could still do Rocky and go to the college that I went to. All of my best friends are from here. Like, I make purchases, you know, based on like, oh, like I can update this costume piece with this paycheck. So it's like kind of everything. And like my current partner is also doing Rocky, and we have an apartment and a cat and like, you know, the whole white picket fence and all that stuff.
How would I describe my life outside of Rocky? Very different. I am a licensed therapist. You wouldn't really expect someone like that to be doing this, and I work professionally in mental health. I have a lot of degrees and a lot of letters after my name, and I live what looks like a very normal, sane life. But I mean, I'm still me. I portray the same person I am everywhere. Like the guy you see on stage, I am a different version of that at work. I might not be as foul-mouthed, but my personality is pretty much the same. But you know, I have a real regular ass life, and I just do this on Fridays, and you would never know.
I'm a touring lighting designer for my full-time job, so I do lights to make money, and then I come here and I do lights to have fun.
I like to think I live a pretty artistic life outside of Rocky Horror. Like, I'm a receptionist at a hair salon, I do outside theater, I do outside art, so I like to think that I still like to live a creative life outside of Rocky.
I pretty much taught myself the entire Adobe suite while my first year on cast, and since then I now work as a graphic designer for an advertising agency, so I'd say wouldn't have a job or my apartment or anything without Rocky.
My life outside of Rocky some days looks like Rocky still, and some days is not, because I'm a teacher, so I do have like my teacher persona. But I would definitely say that like my Rocky persona is way more who I actually am than that. So some days I look like this still, and then some days I look like I have my life together.
We are at HorrorCon 2022 in Atlantic City with the Friday Night Specials cast. Woohoo! We are vending all of our merchandise, or at least a good majority of our merchandise is made by the cast, and we are just having fun and showing it off.
The really rabid fans who became the shadow casts around the world that kept this thing alive. And then it was the regular fans who just wanted to get stoned and go to a movie. The shadow casts are there for the friendship, and they had found their own group, and those friendships have lasted a lifetime because it's so multi-generational. The grandmothers played it for the mothers played it for the 10-year-olds who now come up to me at a convention like this and say, "Oh, I love you," and then their grandmothers are standing behind them and go, "Well, I love you too," you know. And it's about finding your way, you know. It's about the loss of innocence, the movie, and everybody goes through that. If you see it at the right age, I think it brings up a lot of questions, and I think that's why it's so enduring, you know. That, and it's just sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I mean, what I think makes our Rocky cast different than other Rocky casts is we've always been very big on audience inclusion. We always want the audience to know that you're a part of this thing with us. Like, yeah, we're the cast, you know, we're hosting the show, but we want to make you a part of it as much as humanly possible, which is why, you know, we'll use people as props and we'll have people hold signs and stuff like that. Our immersion with the audience has always been in my opinion, a lot bigger than other people's.
I think we bring a really unique aspect on a technical front. I think we have really, really talented people up in our booths making the show look really, really good. I think we set a really strong standard for looking like the part as well, in terms of how we wear our costumes and what costumes we wear.
We're more of a complete package, if that makes any sense. The experience starts when you walk up to the theater and you're immediately greeted with a merchandise table. You're led into the theater, there's music bumping, there's a little dance party, there's a whole pre-show, we pop the virgins, and then the Rocky Horror starts. But it really starts when you get out of your car, really.
I mean, I met my best friend here, my best friend Daniel. He's been on the cast forever. I feel like our relationship, just with everyone too, like we're very close. We know each other so well.
We all get to play the same characters. We all get to do the same things with each other in a different way. So like I'll be playing, like with someone I'll be playing Frank to their Janet, and then the next week I'll be playing Janet to their Frank. And I think that's really like an interesting dynamic to have with someone.
So we've definitely gotten compliments on like being funny and entertaining and goofy. And then I could honestly say that our cast is a family, because I mean, these are all my people. I don't talk to anyone besides my cast, so they're my family for sure.
So as far as Rocky Horror being a welcome social environment to other people, you know, Rocky Horror is really ahead of its time, right? It's big about being who you are, you know, being who you want to be, finding yourself. And a lot of people, younger people, you know, teenagers, they come to the show and they don't really realize maybe who they are yet. And then when they're surrounded by all this acceptance and all these different types of people, I have been told a lot of people feel more comfortable to be themselves, and it's inspired them to be themselves.
It's like a catch-all almost, where it's like, you know, you didn't fit in high school, you can fit in here. Like, oh, you don't fit in your professional environment. So it's very accepting, very like body positive, like very like mental health forward kind of place.
I think it's a wonderful and accepting community. I'm trans. I'm like 17 different types of queer. It's like fucking whatever. But I've never felt as accepted as I do when I'm here. This was the first place where I was ever okay, like where everyone just used my pronouns. Like I didn't have to worry about it. So it's definitely like a really great inclusive community.
I think Rocky Horror is still relevant because of those social issues, you know, acceptance, you know, with the LGBT movement more in the forefront, and this place being ahead of its time. Like, you know, it's just, it stays relevant because of that. I mean, also, I mean, the movie's not that great, but the music is timeless, so it just, you know, new generations just keep picking up on it and realizing what the hell it is, and then they come here for the first time because their mom told them about it or their older cousin told them about it. And you're gonna have a lot of people here tonight that are literally like, oh, I had to come because somebody told me it was friggin' weird. And they're right. It's like community theater on steroids. It's constantly moving. You know, if you do community theater, maybe you do a couple shows and then you're done. And then maybe in a few months you do another show. We have consistently done shows for the last 20 years. We were weekly for a really long time. We were every Friday night at midnight up until the pandemic. The pandemic changed everything, but we're constantly improving the show. Constantly building props, improving costumes, doing the littlest, smallest, stupid things, where if somebody's like, hey, that's pretty cool, then that's good enough for me.
I would just say Rocky Horror is always like an open and special place for people. And if that's something people feel like they need in their life, is just like a little bit of dumb fun, I'd say come to this show and just tune out for a little bit.
I think everyone should see it once at least, you know, because you might love it or hate it, but at least you did it.